The information provided is for educational purposes and is not intended to diagnose or treat any conditions. The lifestyle interventions discussed should not be used as a substitute for conventional medical therapy.
Imagine if medicine actually looked at you as a whole, opposed to looking at you as a bunch of separate systems. Dive into Integrative Wellness Radio with Dr. Nick and Dr. Nicole to learn more about the top trends in integrative medicine, to learn about what the limitations are with testing and what you can do to start your health journey. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Integrative Wellness Radio. So we are throwing you for a little bit of a loop, kind of getting I don't want to say off topic, but just kind of bringing a different topic to light. Nick and I were out in Atlantic City. I know Atlantic City sounds, everyone's like always judges when we say we go there. But we were just having like a little staycation, went to, what was it, the water club?
Yeah.
And
cool.
The pool, it was amazing. But it was very interesting because as we were there, we were just kind of observing our surroundings. And just
it's great people watching.
Great people watching. And it's not the first time, but it was just a lot of people doing it. Just kind of found that there were so many young individuals that were just not talking to each other, and they were on their cell phones, and there were many photo shoots of
Excuse me, I'm busy right now. How's this look? Looks so good.
It was literally going on for an hour at least. Oh,
text messages. I'm so popular. I got a like.
So
people love me.
I think that it was just really brought something to light for me. And I'm not even that old. I'm in my mid-30s, and I know that when I get together with my high school friends, and I know the same for you, because when we go back to your hometown, you know, we sit there and reminisce about all of our memories. We reminisce about the dumb things that we did and like the crazy parties that we went to. And, you know, you just literally laugh until you cry about all the dumb stuff that you did when you were a kid. And it made me just have this moment of thinking about, you know, what are these kids going to be talking about when they're older? You know, we're not busting out photo albums because that's how old we are. There's photo albums. But we're not busting out photo albums. We're not even busting out the old Facebook pictures of before parents could be on Facebook.
Right.
And we don't reminisce about those things. We actually reminisce about our memories. And it was just such an interesting dynamic of this day and age of just watching people not communicating with each other and wondering if they even know how to communicate with each other anymore.
And where that's taking us into the future, which I don't know if you want to get that deep, but we might go there.
Well, I know that a lot of things are moving towards technology and, you know, these are people that might be more technologically inclined and, you know, leveraging those types of platforms, but still it's as the world moves in that direction of leveraging more and more technology, we're still taking away from human experience.
Oh yeah, the way my brain works, just to pre-frame, is usually different than how most people's brain works.
Including mine.
Including hers. Polar opposites. So foundationally, I look at everything just as energy. And like what she's talking about is, as we are evolving as a society, there's really just a transfer of energy. So it's like we're transferring the way that we're communicating, but it's interesting because we don't know, like you said, in the future, you know, you get together with your loved ones and, you know, we're not pulling up in our day pictures, but they're not going to be pulling up, you know, pictures. They're just not going to be phones in a couple of years to be able to look at these things. So it's like, what's your communication be if you don't have a memory to really stimulate access to a good time? Because you never had it, because you were never present. You were always doing something to pretty much live in the past or the future to be able to look at it. And what most people are doing is they're trying to take some type of Instagram, social media aspect on it to be able to fulfill a need in the future that hasn't even came, so you're missing out on the present.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge problem for people is not living in the present and living either in the past with rumination of, different things that happen, playing it over and over in your head, and then breaking it apart to be something so much bigger than it is. Or I feel like now with social media is we are living in the future and we're sitting there analyzing how many likes did I get, and who looked at it, who didn't look at it, etc., how many people commented on it. And really, at the end of the day, we're going to get to a point in our lives of who cares?
But you're also, I mean, it's who cares, but as a society, looking at that, you're disempowering yourself when you're being dependent on a certain amount of likes or a certain amount of comments onto yourself, and for what and for why.
Yeah.
So it's like at the end of the day, it's like you have all these. I've actually started writing an article on it. I don't even know if I even told you, but the difference between influencers and leadership. And leaders, and it's like when you look at it, leaders are always influencing people, but influencers aren't always leaders. And it's the big difference is that you have all these massive followings today for these influencers, but what are they influencing for? And it's really the transfer of energy is all going back to serve the influencer, the one person. Where you look at a leader, they are helping to influence a tribe, a community, for the end goal to be solving a problem, an issue. So evolving a group of people forward for resolution. And for the most part in society today, people are following influencers and not leaders. So it's very interesting where I guess we're traveling today, and the fact that just consciously, who are we listening to? What advice are we taking from? And pretty much having that direct us to how we're living our lives day by day.
Okay, I have all the questions.
Okay.
So I guess my first question is more so when it comes to following influencers, not following leaders, and how do you think this plays into the level of anxiety that social platforms are creating?
Well, anxiety pretty much, comes down for a lot of things, but a lot of it's through an imbalanced perception of being fearful of the future. And one of my mentors, John Demartini, he talks about fear being false evidence appearing real. So you're making a judgment on something that hasn't happened yet, and from that imbalanced perception, it's dictating you, and the opposite. For every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. So it's causing you to actually experience anxiety. If that makes sense?
Yeah. So where do you think this falls with people being able to really figure out their goals and figure out their purpose?
Oh, it's 100% dead on. So it's like when you look at a lot of people and like who you're taking advice from, it's interesting that one, you need to always be judgmental, and not that. So judgment has its pros and cons. Everything has its balance, but it's always good to be judgmental on what people are saying, because they can only give you the level of advice of the conscious and awareness and intelligence that they have at that moment. So they're going to always give you the best advice that they can, but pardon my language, but it can still be shitty advice. So
it's true.
As a person, you just have to understand that and not let somebody's advice affect you and be like, "Oh, I can't believe they said that," or blah blah blah. It's just like they're giving you the best advice that they had. You might maybe ask somebody else for some other advice too.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that, so part of getting clear on what your purpose is, what's your mission going up in life, what drives you, what creates inspiration every single day, and that's like a whole nother topic I'll get on later about inspiration and motivation. But until you know what's most important to you, you'll probably put action and energy into something that's not directly going to serve you. And you can work your ass off into the point where you realize that you did it all in the wrong direction. So like having a strong foundation before you actually take action is, concrete detrimental, so that you don't work in the wrong direction, and everything that you do is putting you more in that flow state, so that you're knocking off like those micro goals to get and incorporate and pretty much achieve those larger goals.
Well, I think that one of the things that Nick is doing in our practice is he helps people with something called the values determination. And I think that this is something really significant for what you're saying, because when you are inquiring for advice or inquiring for guidance, you want to take that information as information. It's not something that you should be relying on to make a decision. And really what it comes down to is that most people's advice is dictated by their value system. It's dictated by what they see the most value in. And they're going to speak to anyone based off of their values. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's your values as a person. So there's so many people that Nick takes through, this process of helping them to understand what do they actually care about in life. And they go, I cannot believe that I'm, in my 40s and 50s and just figuring this out or just thinking about this.
Yeah, it should be something that's definitely taught in elementary school for everybody. I even go through it with a lot of teachers, and it's like, how awesome would it be if every single student in your classroom, if they just had an index card right next to them, and when you went up to give them help, you could actually speak what was most important to Johnny. It's like, Johnny cares about basketball. We're in math class. Let's have it, addition, subtraction, points, vowels. Like, let's make everything about basketball to learn math or to learn science. Like, people aren't going to care about learning something if it doesn't support their value system, what's most important to them. And that's one of the biggest problems with our school system today, is that we're just forcing AKA bullcrap into people's non-value system, and you wonder why people have ADD and they don't care about school and all this stuff. It's not that none of that bullcrap's not important, but it's just being pushed that we have to do this instead of
everybody has to learn the same way and process the same way, which is definitely not fair to certain kids that are more visual or more kinesthetic and they want to get their hands dirty. But I want to go back just to the values as well, because I think that a common confusion, I had this conversation with a woman the other day, and she just said, well, I value my kids. And I was like, no.
You can value your kids. It can be a value.
Well, I said, well, what if you didn't have kids? What would you value then? And she didn't know what to say. So that was kind of why I knew that there was a bit of a hang up in the values, because she definitely valued quality time and relationships. But it was pretty much saying, I only value my kids, and that's the only value that I have. And
well, I mean, it might not be wrong, which I'm saying. So first off, I had people go to the Dr. Demartini website. In there, he has this whole value termination link, and that speeds the process up, because it gets people thinking. They're narrowing it down. Usually, they're not 100% exact, accurate. So then I'll take it and I'll kind of work with them to get extreme clarity. So in that instance, this woman comes in and she says she values her kids. So if you look at what pretty much runs our life today, which is time and money, so it's what are you spending most of your time on? And if everything that she's spending time on is with her kids, and same thing, if all of her money's going to buy kids' school supplies and paying for the kids' college and paying for the kids, clothes for this, then her top value might be her kids. And it's also the understanding that we all value what we perceive as missing or the voids in our life. So it's pretty awesome to see, looking at everything really being just a transfer of energy, is that most of our life, we're just searching to fulfill what we perceive as missing. And our values will stay the same until something happens within our life to create a change of what we perceive as missing most. And when that occurs, our values will shift.
Yeah. And a lot of times with the values as well is that when you, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to this, but when you are triggered by someone that is,
Do you ever get triggered?
Yes, of course. We're not all perfect like you, Dr. Nick. So when you are being triggered by someone, giving you their opinion or recommending something for you, a lot of times that's because they are injecting their value system onto you, and your value system is not congruent. And very much it goes the other way, is when you value, for us, we were very, victim to this, is that we value health and wellness, and we think everybody deserves to have the best version of healthcare. And, you know, at first we didn't realize that not everybody wants that. And not everybody values that. And a lot of people value other things, and health is very low in the totem pole. And even when their health declines, it's still not high. They're just kind of like, give me the pill, let's put a Band-Aid on it. I don't want to deal with it. And I remember thinking that was crazy because that's my value.
Right.
And it was very freeing when I did acknowledge this, and I understood that this was my value and it wasn't everybody else's. And when we started to also focus on, we're going to really bring people into our practice that this is their value, and you know, this is going to be the best environment for them because they want to grow and transform their health, and they want to have tools to help their family. That was really when we saw such a shift in how we showed up every day. So I think it's important to kind of keep that in mind in, you know, when we're talking about this whole like social media platform and looking for attention versus, you know, observing other people, is that you're observing good, you're observing bad. You know, you're observing things that you're judging or resenting, and you're also posting a picture wanting everything to be good, good, good. But then you're also going to get that person that's going to say something bad. And then you're going to focus on the one thing that the person said bad, even though you have 50 comments of somebody saying something nice.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you go. You run with it because I see the smile on your face.
There's just so many tidbits in there that I want to talk about. I guess stepping back, one of the first things you mentioned was really like getting triggered with that. So it's like everybody's going to be triggered when your not just your values, but your belief systems get challenged. Because what you believe, when that gets challenged, what do you start to do? And anybody starts to do, you try controlling the situation. Mm-hmm. So you control the situation so that you can hold on to what you believe in. Mm-hmm. But somebody else has challenged you for that. What happens from that is it's really a push-pull happens. And then it's either a lose-lose or a win-lose. But it's never a win-win between both parties. Mm-hmm. And when, as you mentioned, really what love is loving somebody for who they are, not for who you want them to be.
Yeah.
And it's understanding that, yeah, you may not care about health at all. You may love diet soda and eating Doritos and
what do you mean diet soda's healthy?
All these things. And there's benefits.
There's organic Doritos, Nick.
There's benefits and cons to all of these things. This is actually it was very difficult for me to do because my perception was so imbalanced on it. When I just did my more advanced training through the Demartini Method, one of the facilitators took me through and saw how, for me helping people, I was equally dishelping them. I was doing just as much disservice and drawbacks to everything that I was giving them benefits to. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I saved this person from having a reaction because they were allergic to penicillin, and their medical doctor was wanting to give them amoxicillin.
Yeah.
And I was like, how's that a drawback? And I was like, dug through, and I found like everything I did that there is equal but opposite action for every reaction, and it was crazy freeing. I got teary-eyed literally about 3/4 of the way through because I just saw how beautiful and how perfect and balanced literally everything is. And now I'm not so much attached to, quote unquote, like even my ego. It's not about that at all. And then going forward, it's like really focusing on this social media, and if you're having such an impulsion to get likes and all these things, your energy is imbalanced. And if you look at energy being flatline and balanced, anything that we associate overly positive or fantasize or really, really want, we're going to attract the exact equal and opposite to bring us energetically back into balance. So it's like our likes are going to drop. We're going to have people that are going to create more chaos and more criticism, and they're going to attack you. And it's not because they don't love you. They actually do love you. They're the person that probably loves you the most because they're calling your bullshit out to bring you back into balance.
Yeah.
So it's not until you actually can have that conscious awareness and see that this person is actually giving us love and helping us to
doesn't feel like love in the moment.
Does not feel like love.
Thanks, Nick, for shedding that light.
But once you can see that, then you bring yourself back into balance, so you actually stop that person or the group or whoever it is to attract that criticism or attract the less following or whatever it is. But anytime, you're always going to have a balance, like the bigger, quote unquote, you play in life, there's going to be a balance of people that like you and people that dislike you to keep you even keel. And it's a false reality.
And I think that's the key thing, is just to know that for you to just be loved on social media and not have any ridicule or criticism is just a very imbalanced fantasy. And we need to stop looking at the criticisms as bad, but it's really just people that aren't necessarily congruent with our value system and belief system, or they're there to challenge you for how, you're coming across to the general public.
And everything's really comes down to perception. So it's like, you can have these bad comments, and a lot of bad comments, you could be like, they don't affect me. But then there's that one that does.
Yeah.
And just ruminates and just eats at you. And that's the one that's the love, because that's the one that's reflecting inside of you that you don't love most about yourself. So once you can figure that out and bring that perception or whatever that aspect is of yourself and love all of that, the good and the bad in it, then that sets you free.
Well, one thing I'll say too is that a lot of the principles that Dr. Nick is talking about is in relation to the Demartini Method. And the Demartini Method was created by Dr. Demartini, but Nick is classified as one of the facilitators for that method. And the method I've gone through personally with Dr. Demartini, and I've done it many other times beyond that. And it is something that really is very different, and it's challenging, because it is challenging your perceptions and thought process around things that you feel to be a victim of, or you feel happen to you. So it is literally the most powerful method, but it's difficult to shift your perceptions. When you do, literally it's life-changing.
I explain a lot like riding a bike. Your first couple times you're falling down and you're hitting the pavement pretty hard. It's not easy, but the more you do it, the more you practice, the more those neural connections are actually being created. And what's very cool is the more you do it, you actually create more of that neuroplasticity, and you strengthen the neurons to be able to activate. And the more you do it, the more you can actually see the balance that's happening, the good and the bad, at that exact same moment.
Well, you reprogram all of the crappy programming that says you have to feel this way, you have to act this way, you have to believe this. So it's very freeing.
Most of our minds are still using AOL Instant Messenger.
That's a good way to put it. So one of the things that came up...
Kids are like, what is that?
Yeah, right. So one of the things that we were talking about before that I wanted to just kind of have you shed a little bit of light on as well is control and ego. So when it comes to the social media platforms, how do you feel like they're playing a role in this sense of control and also the ego?
I guess we'll start with control. With control, I mean, it's a big fantasy for the most part, because everything that we post on there, nothing's raw unless that raw picture is beautiful. We're not putting our worst moments. We're not putting anything bad on social media. We're putting everything we might put.
So, AKA, we're creating a sense of control.
Yeah, and we're creating a sense of almost like perfection. Thank you. Life. Like we were just in Brooklyn, and everybody's like, "You guys had the best time." And we're like, we actually didn't have that great of a time at all.
Yeah.
But our social media made it look like we had a great time.
Yeah, it was the worst service. At every place we went to, I was like, are we being punked? Is there going to be a camera crew that comes out? Like, it was actually astonishing.
It was very impressive. But we were attracting that shit somehow, so
yeah.
What was happening?
Well, and that's the case for so many people, is that we're creating this facade that everything is great, but unfortunately we're battling depression and anxiety behind the scenes. And, it's if we were to able to take that step back and stop trying to create the facade and actually focus on, like, what the hell we actually give a shit about.
Right.
and focus on ourselves and our development and what are we passionate about, what are our values, what are we working towards, and stop distracting ourselves, I think it would be a very different dynamic when it comes to these increased levels of depression and anxiety. Anxiety is like a, I have anxiety. Everybody has anxiety. And
the big part with the ego, that playing off of that, is like it's your ego that's always saying, it's like, you have to have this many likes. You need to be liked from the external environment. It's everything. It's always chasing externally, where it's like your true ego is actually in bliss. It's not like your animalistic ego that we all talk about. But really, it's like when you're living congruent, inspired to your deeper self, it's like, for the most part, anything that you're posting, you're just doing out of love and appreciation to share a moment. It's not towards trying to, have to have a certain amount of likes, and I'm doing this because I'm being sponsored by somebody, and it's like all these things. It's not saying that being sponsored is a bad thing, just as long as everything's in alignment. Yeah,
make that money.
Right?
But sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I get up and go to work every day.
But it's really, it's about taking that action from within, owning you, and then providing that as an external service.
Well, that was something that you said before is, inspiration and motivation. So I think that this is a great way to kind of, bring this all together, is that I think that we can leverage social media in a way that we are having it serve a bigger purpose. And, I think it's safe to say it really comes back to inspiration, inspiring ourselves, inspiring others. And we have to maybe ask ourselves that question every time we post. What are we posting this for? Because we feel like we have to, because we feel like we're obligated, because we are feeling a little low and we want to have some people like the picture to give us a little emotional boost? Or are we posting this to truly make an impact on our followers and inspire others?
What if you just took that same paradigm and you took that to food? Why am I taking this bite right here? Is it to serve my energy? Is it because I love this food? Or is it because it's going to give me a dopamine rush and I love chocolate and these things? It's a different type of love. But it's like, having that quality, and it comes back to just like the quality of your relationship with everything. It's like, what's the quality of your relationship with food? What's the quality of your relationship with your thoughts? What's the quality of the relationship with your movement? How are you sitting? How are you holding yourself? It's like, how well do you love every single aspect of things that you are and you do? Comes down to it. Hashtag Dr. Phil Pritting. I've never seen so far an individual that puts so much of that love into like his body awareness. And it's just like, he crushes and owns that. Like his posture, his movement, everything, he's so conscious about loving that aspect of him. And it's like, that's an amazing place to start. And then you can take that awareness, once you own something, you can just transcribe and transfer that awareness over to another aspect of life. And you can utilize that with food, and you can utilize that with your thoughts and your communication. And it's just like, start with what you're most passionate about, own that, and then just evolve it and keep going and keep going.
Yeah, and I think those are some of the most impactful social media accounts are the people that are bringing quality content that is inspiring, opposed to the people that are posting to post. But, I think that this conversation started just because of, an observation of seeing people that were not necessarily communicating with each other, and we're missing out on all of these amazing moments that are happening in the present in order to create a facade online. And the conversation obviously took us in a different direction of understanding that a lot of this comes back to wanting to feel in control. It's wanting to be liked.
Crazy enough, it's all coming back to wanting to experience love. You're just looking for it externally instead of doing the work to have it internally.
Yeah. So I think it's just, to take away some of the key tidbits, it's really being able to acknowledge, are you fueling your ego? Are you doing this out of inspiration? Are you doing this out of love for what you're posting? And really being able to segregate the time with your family and friends from the time that you're spending on social media. Because the last thing you want to do is go, years, and then all of a sudden you look back and be like, oh my gosh, I don't even have any memories to look back onto.
Right.
So, well, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you next week when we are talking all about neurological issues in relation to your vision, as well as the connection between testosterone and Parkinson's. See you next week. We thank you for being a listener and subscriber to Integrative Wellness Radio. If you're looking to learn more about Integrative Wellness Group, as well as Dr. Nick or Dr. Nicole, you can check out integrativewellnessgroup.com.